So you probably know people whose desktops look like this or whose iPhones look like this. The saying, a cluttered desk is a cluttered mind, has always been true, but in today's modern technological era, we need to take things a step further and apply this principle to our digital workspace in addition to our physical workspace. An unorganized computer or phone can increase friction when you do sit down to work. It can cause you to easily get distracted, lose track of important files, and decrease overall efficiency and productivity. So in this video, I'll discuss a simple system that I follow to organize my digital workspace. Unlike your physical home or office that will just naturally get messy as you use it, as long as you continue to follow this system, it doesn't take much effort to keep your digital workspace clean and orderly. The first thing I did was to establish the key pillars of my life. And these are basically just the main areas of focus in your life. For a lot of people, this could just be work, health, relationships. For me, I tried to make it a little more specific. So I've got YouTube, health, relationships, education, and minimalism. Obviously, it'll be unique to your own life, so figure out what those key areas are for you. But next, I go through each component of my digital workspace and kind of align it and organize it with those key areas in mind. All right, so I'll cover what I think are the common components of most people's digital lives, but of course, if I miss anything, I think it'll be pretty easy for you to just apply the same ideas because we're basically just gonna be mirroring those key pillars that we established earlier. So first we have just regular computer files. As you can see, I am on Mac and this is my desktop. Looks nice and clean. Nothing really on here except for just one folder I have called everything. And if I click on that, as you can see, there are 5 subfolders, one for each of the key areas in my life. And if I click into one of these folders, of course, there are more subfolders as needed. But basically every single file on my computer, I like to keep in one of these folders because it should relate hopefully to one of the main areas in my life. If it doesn't, then I probably don't need it on my computer and I can just delete it. And then I do treat the downloads folder as kind of an inbox for my computer files. So anytime I'm downloading something, of course, it'll go to the downloads folder and then I'll try my best to organize it into its respective folder. And every once in a while, I'll have to kind of go through and clear out the whole downloads folder. But that's a pretty simple system to follow and I think will make a big difference if you use your computer a lot for work because you know where everything is, and if you need to find a certain file, you can just quickly go to that category. And if you have any files that don't fit into these categories and you don't need them, just delete them from your computer. It'll help clear out your storage and your computer will also honestly run faster, I think, if you don't use as much storage. I would also make sure to clean out any unused applications clogging up your computer. I like to use this app called App Cleaner, and you can very easily just drag an application into here or go to the list feature and it'll show all the applications that you have installed, and you can very easily click on one and it'll sort of find all the related files and folders and you can very easily just remove it from your computer. Next, I like to organize my digital notes. So for that, I just use the regular Apple Notes application for most of my note taking, and I'm following Tiago Forte's system here recently, but it's pretty similar to just the idea of organizing things by each of the key areas in your life. I do have a projects folder for any sort of active one-off projects, but more frequently I just use this areas folder, which again, as you can see, has each of the 5 areas of my life, and then I put any notes related to them in each of these folders. I also use either the quick notes or the default notes as kind of the inbox for my notes if I just need to jot down something quickly, and later I'll go through and organize them into the rest of the folders. Next up, I have my cloud storage, and this I treat pretty similar to just the regular file storage on my Mac, again, organizing by each of the main categories, except I mainly use it just for YouTube to back up all those big video files. So I have a big YouTube folder here organized, but if you have other files for other areas of your life, I would just make additional folders as needed. The nice thing about Google Drive is that if I open up Finder, I can actually view my Google Drive files directly in my Finder window. So it creates this little Google Drive folder. As you can see, I have the exact same folders in Finder as I do in Google Drive. And so this makes it really nice and easy to just quickly access files from the cloud without having to go to Chrome, go to the Google Drive website, open up the folder, download it to your computer or whatever. I can just go into Google Drive directly in Finder. Let's say I want to go to my B-roll library, which I have all uploaded to Google Drive, open it up, and I can view some of these files directly in Finder and drag them over to my editing software if I need to. So next up, we have my calendar and task manager. And as you can probably expect, I've organized each of these to align with those key areas of my life. So as you can see in my Apple Calendar, I've got separate calendars for each of the key areas of my life. So that way I make sure that pretty much everything everything on my calendar is organized and aligns with one of those key areas of my life, I can just easily create an event and select the relevant calendar as needed. And I'm doing the same kind of thing with my task manager, having each of my key areas and making sure that every task fits into one of those categories. And I like this because it keeps me on track and makes sure that I don't add a task to my to-do list that doesn't really impact the things I care about in life and is just kind of taking up my time. And so usually most things that I do will fit into one of these categories. If I'm looking through my to-do list or adding a task and I find that it doesn't really fit into one of my main areas, then I usually reconsider if I actually need to do the thing. And of course, our digital workspaces aren't just limited to our laptops or computers. We can't forget about the mini computer that we take with us pretty much anywhere, our smartphones. And depending on what you do, you might use your phone even more than your laptop. So it's just as important to keep your phone as clutter-free and organized as possible. And especially since in my experience, it's a lot easier to get distracted and off task when using my phone. So to keep it organized and clutter-free, I do a few different things. The first is to just delete all unnecessary apps. I have a bad habit of just kind of downloading the app for everything, even when I don't really need it. So every now and then I'll go through my whole app library and just delete things that I haven't used in a while. Next, I'll turn off notifications for most apps because the truth is I don't really need to be notified about every single thing that's happening in all the apps on my phone. And this helps me really declutter and organize my notifications and not get distracted by random things that don't actually matter. And that way, when I do get a notification, I know that it's probably something actually important. I've also set up my phone to just have a one-page home screen with the key applications that I use on a daily basis, and I hide all the other apps in the app library. If you want to see a full explanation on how I organize my iPhone for maximum productivity, watch this video here. As always, do something today that your future self would thank you for.